an extraterrestrial threat, a top-secret organization, a government within a government. Has the United States made contact with aliens? Experts believe they have. And an ultra-top-secret organization is calling all the shots. They operate in the shadows, keeping even the highest level of government in the dark about their actions. They demand the utmost secrecy. They are said to control all UFO information. But does this powerful organization pose an even greater threat to the future of humanity? Tonight, we reveal the most secret organization the world has ever known. Get ready for the story of the Majestic 12. A global effort has begun. Secret files hidden from the public for decades, detailing every UFO account, are now available to the public. We are about to uncover the truth behind these classified documents. Find out what the government doesn't want you to know. Unsealed Alien Files. Exposing the biggest secret on planet Earth. Solway Firth, United Kingdom, May 23rd, 1964. On a family outing, Jim Templeton innocently takes a series of 3 photos of his daughter. Templeton develops the photos himself. The first one reveals nothing out of the ordinary. But in the second photo, a strange figure is visible in the background, wearing what appears to be a white helmet and spacesuit. Soon after, Jim Templeton is paid a menacing visit from 2 men, dressed identically in black suits.
The 2 men took him back to the site and were clearly trying to get him to go along with their version of events. Jim Templeton didn't play ball. The men became angry and in fact stranded him at the site. Some people have drawn a parallel between these 2 men and reports of the so-called Men in Black.
Descriptions of similar types of intimidating men are legendary, but no one knows who they are or what organization they belong to. Could the Men in Black belong to the infamous Majestic 12? The answer may lie in the aftermath of 2 of the most infamous UFO incidents in American history. Unsealed case file, the Battle of Los Angeles. February 24th, 1942. The American Navy is on high alert, monitoring the Pacific coast for Japanese military activity. Just after 3 a.m., sirens begin to sound. An unidentified flying object has been detected, moving steadily across the Santa Monica skies toward the coast. Artillery batteries open up. Despite firing 12 to 1,400 rounds at the craft, including some direct hits, they fail to bring it down. The official report given by the Secretary of the Navy, Frank Knox, calls it a false alarm. But photos of the object are appearing in newspapers. The public demands an explanation, and they get one. The Navy is calling it a weather balloon. A very different story is emerging in Washington, D.C. Secretary of State George Marshall briefs President Roosevelt. The craft was in fact a UFO, and it was not alone. A second craft was shot down and recovered off the coast of California and is, in all probability, of interplanetary origin. Marshall recommends a special intelligence unit be created to further investigate the phenomena. The Interplanetary Phenomenon Unit, or IPU, is formed almost immediately. But their investigation also reveals the United States is virtually defenseless against an alien attack. Could the wreckage of this latest crash be used to strengthen defensive capabilities? It's a radical idea. Attempting to understand alien technology may help fight aliens in a future war, but it may also give the U.S. military an unbeatable edge against the entire world, ensuring its status as the dominant superpower. The recovered alien technology is allegedly examined, but the work proceeds slowly until one of the most famous UFO incidents in American history. Unsealed case file. The Roswell incident. Roswell, New Mexico, 1947. The wreckage of an alien craft is recovered by the IPU, along with the bodies of 3 extraterrestrials and 1 lone survivor. The cover story is a familiar one.
Of course, the first story was that the Air Force had passed the flying disc. In fact, it was the Army Air Corps at the time. Then they recanted the story just half a day later and came out with the fact that it was a weather balloon. And in fact, we have 20 deathbed confessions of folks who say that they were there at the time, that this was not a weather balloon, that there were aliens that they saw.
The Interplanetary Phenomenon Unit locks the site down, collects the evidence, and evacuates the surviving extraterrestrial. But many insiders believe there is mounting evidence to support the theory that aliens are arriving more frequently and in greater numbers. The time has come to act. On September 24th, 1947, President Truman allegedly signs an executive order establishing the most secret organization in American history, Majestic 12. Coming up, who are the members of the Majestic 12? And who is really in control? Experts believe that 2 famous alien incidents, known as the Battle of LA and Roswell, may have led to the U.S. government creating a special and classified organization to investigate and control information about aliens. The alleged clandestine 12-member group is known simply as the Majestic 12. Washington, D.C., 1947. Top secret UFO investigation agency, the Majestic 12, has been created to combat an increasing alien threat. But who are these men?
There was a general feeling that whatever UFOs were, strange, spooky, weird, odd, the subject of science fiction movies, somehow people on the inside knew exactly what they were. People inside the United States government.
After the PR fallout of the mishandled Roswell incident, it was obvious to many Air Force insiders that an elite, hand-picked team needed to be created to control and monitor the increasing UFO phenomena 24/7. The man allegedly chosen to oversee Majestic 12 is James Forrestal, U.S. Secretary of Defense. Forrestal is the man behind the scenes. But who can be trusted to run Majestic operations on the ground? One name catches Forrestal's eye: Vannevar Bush. He is the first scientific advisor to the president and a key figure behind the Manhattan Project, code name for the world's first atomic bomb. Majestic 12's first priority is to limit the public's knowledge and exposure to UFOs. Run out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, experts believe Majestic 12's first official operation is codenamed Project Sign. Unsealed case file. Project Sign. Project Sign sends operatives into the field to deal with a rash of recent sightings, with the purpose of clamping a tight lid down on UFO phenomena in America. June 24th, 1947. Pilot Kenneth Arnold spots a series of discs flying in a strange formation at incredible speeds near Mount Rainier, Washington. Several witnesses corroborate the incident. The story appears in American and Canadian publications. From those stories, the term flying saucer is introduced to the public. The very publication of Kenneth Arnold's story sends shockwaves through Majestic 12. How did even this small amount of information get into the public domain? Though the press is kept in the dark, one thing is clear: the problem is escalating. Although America's nuclear development is still in its infancy, ufologists fear mankind's new experimental energy frontier may be part of the problem. Some experts speculate atomic testing and the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki have attracted attention from other worlds. It is obvious to many in the scientific community that if extraterrestrials exist, they may be using a similar concentrated energy source to power their spacecraft. One of the men behind the Manhattan Project atomic tests is Vannevar Bush, the same man who is now head of Majestic 12. Vannevar Bush orders all Project Sign information. From this moment on, the American government's official public position is that extraterrestrials do not exist. But information leaks and insidious press coverage split Majestic 12 into two distinct factions. Those who feel the public must be made aware of UFOs, and those who feel proof of alien life must never reach the public again. Coming up, the secret knowledge of an alien presence on Earth may have led to one of the most devastating events in American history. (1949). Majestic 12 is at a crossroads. Insiders are pushing for some public form of disclosure, and the man who oversees the organization, James Forrestal, feels the time is right to tell the public about the presence of UFOs. But there are also agents who will stop at nothing to prevent disclosure. How far would Forrestal's opponents go to keep a lid on the truth? Unsealed case file: The Death of James Forrestal. Washington, D.C., March 9th, 1949. James Forrestal is asked by President Truman to step down as Secretary of Defense. Is Forrestal's forced retirement the result of his stance on declassifying the existence of alien life? As his health declines from stress, he checks into Bethesda Hospital. On May 22nd, 1949, James Forrestal falls to his death from the hospital's 16th floor. The official cause of death? Suicide due to depression and nervous exhaustion. But as new evidence begins to surface, suspicion regarding Forrestal's death begins to grow. Broken glass is found in Forrestal's hospital bed, suggesting a struggle. There are allegations the suicide note left behind is not in Forrestal's handwriting. The military inquiry into the matter is classified top secret and not released. Washington, D.C., January 20th, 1953. Dwight D. Eisenhower succeeds President Harry S. Truman. Eisenhower has a strong military background and is the first president to be aware of alien activity before taking office. In 1952, Eisenhower is aboard the USS Roosevelt during a NATO training exercise. At 1:30 a.m., a bright ball of light appears over the vessel, hovering 100 feet above the water. Eisenhower and several others watch the UFO for over 20 minutes before it speeds off into the night sky. Upon taking office, Eisenhower digs deeper into rumors of unexplained phenomena. He becomes aware of Majestic 12 and demands to know the full extent of the alien threat. But Majestic 12 rejects the idea of letting anyone, including the president, into their inner circle. The president responds by sending a team to confront Majestic 12 on his behalf. An anonymous witness to these events recently attended the citizens' hearing in Washington, D.C. on UFO phenomena and the government.
He's trying to find out something about these aliens that MJ-12 was supposed to find out, but never sent back reports to him. So he said, I want you to fly out there. I want you to give him a personal message. He says, I want you to tell them, whoever is in charge, tell them that to get into Washington and to report to me. And if they don't, I'm gonna get the 1st Army from Colorado and we're gonna go over, we're gonna take the base over. I don't care what kind of classified material you got. We're gonna rip this thing apart.
Majestic 12 allegedly backs down, and the team is allowed access to Majestic 12's most sensitive information.
They had like different saucer crafts. The very first one had the Roswell craft in.
But the greatest shock came in the lower depths of the base.
And then the colonel said, what we've got in here is we're interviewing a gray alien.
Returning to Washington, the team is debriefed by the president.
So he asked us what was going on, and we told him about the alien, and he was just totally shocked. He appeared for the first time to be worried.
The president had sent a message to Majestic 12, but our anonymous field agent also received a message in return.
Two guys in black suits come out of a black Lincoln town car and came over to see me, and they told me that I better not publish anything or talk about any more things.
If Majestic 12 was powerful enough to conceal this from the very government that controlled them, what other secrets were they keeping? Although the details of extraterrestrial contact are kept from him, Eisenhower's successor, John F. Kennedy, has ambitious plans for expansion into outer space. 2 years after taking office in 1961, President Kennedy opens negotiations with Russian President Nikita Khrushchev. They agreed that NASA and the Russian Space Agency would cooperate in joint missions to the moon and share any information they had about UFOs. But still, Majestic 12 refuses to declassify any UFO activity. Aware of their internal resistance, on November 12, 1963, President Kennedy allegedly issues a final order to Majestic 12, demanding they release all extraterrestrial information. But 10 days after the agreement with Russia is signed, John F. Kennedy is dead. Did Majestic 12 participate in the assassination of JFK to prevent him from gaining access to information about extraterrestrial life? The world may never know. Coming up, is increasing UFO activity a sign of an impending alien invasion? Or is an invasion even necessary if the group that was created to protect us has already betrayed us? Is Majestic 12 still in operation? If so, perhaps an even darker force is controlling their actions. Some experts believe that aliens may have already infiltrated Majestic 12 in order to suppress knowledge of their own kind. But to what end?
I believe if there is an object plan for taking over our world, it's happening from the inside out. So if the resource you're after is the life on the planet, you're obviously not going to want to kill that life. You're going to want to try to, corral it, control it, harness it, do what you want with it.
Who really controls the most powerful nation on Earth? Democratically elected leaders or a dark shadow organization within the government? If the United States and possibly the world is now under alien control, what, if anything, can be done? Many UFO sightings are solitary events that leave witnesses scrambling to prove their story. But what happens when the same object is seen by many people at the same time? In 1965, hundreds watch in amazement as a fireball crashes in rural Pennsylvania. But as eyewitnesses struggle to understand what they see, the U.S. government establishes one of the most elaborate cover-ups in UFO history. Is it a spectacular meteor? a casualty of the space race? Or is it something out of this world? Join us as we expose the hidden secrets of the Kecksburg incident. A global effort has begun. Secret files hidden from the public for decades, detailing every UFO account, are now available to the public. We are about to uncover the truth behind these classified documents. Find out what the government doesn't want you to know. Unsealed Alien Files. Exposing the biggest secret on planet Earth. Earth's orbit, November 2007. High above the planet's surface, the NASA Atmospheric Research Satellite, UARS, collides with an object of unknown origin. Is it a meteor? Another satellite off its course? Or is it a UFO? Mark Matney of NASA's Orbital Debris Program says, it's very hard to determine what might have hit UARS. Though the main body of the satellite is intact, pieces fly off in all directions. It takes a further 3 years for the satellite's orbit to fully decay. Controlled descent is part of NASA's duties. They alert the media and the populace as they monitor the satellite's trajectory. As what remains of UARS breaks the atmosphere, it's observed speeding toward the Earth as a giant ball of fire. It plunges harmlessly into the Pacific. Was the UARS satellite crash an accident? Or was it caused by a sinister alien force? NASA routinely monitors events like this all the time. But years earlier, another object made its way to the surface of our world, but under very different circumstances. December 9th, 1965, 4:45 p.m. U.S. Air Force Radar Command receives multiple reports of a fireball streaking east across the skies over Michigan. It's falling at a tremendous speed. Witnesses take photos of the object and the smoke trail it leaves behind. Grass fires are reported as debris drops in its wake. The object is believed to be a meteor. But this meteor attracts the attention of more than just the scientific community. NASA, the Air Force Special UFO Office, and the Pentagon take notice. The fireball crashes near a small town in rural Pennsylvania, sparking one of the biggest UFO controversies in American history. Unsealed case file. The Kecksburg incident. A UFO crashes in the woods outside Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, but the alleged meteor is believed to have exhibited strange behavior. A witness reports it appeared to maintain a certain altitude, then all of a sudden made a sharp dip downwards from roughly 500 or 600 feet to 300. The military, along with state police, seal off the area and turn away curious onlookers at gunpoint.
And when they gathered, what they noticed was that almost instantly a group, a unit of American soldiers who wore no insignia and came with a flatbed truck were there to retrieve this object and take it away. People were warned, keep your mouth shut. Don't talk about this.
What did the Army recover from the Kecksburg crash site? And why did the Army threaten eyewitnesses? According to those who say the Army transported something out of the Kecksburg woods that night, it wasn't a meteor. Residents report seeing a large bell-shaped object under a tarp. One witness described it as a large solid metallic object, large enough for a man to stand inside. The media reports nothing was found at the impact site, and the Department of Defense denies any involvement. But this does little to end public speculation, especially in the 1960s, when the space race is on everyone's mind.
The exploration of space will go ahead, whether we join in it or not. And it is one of the great adventures of all time. And no nation which expects to be the leader of other nations, can expect to stay behind in this race for space.
At the time, America and the Soviet Union are in a space race to be the first nation to put a man on the moon. But NASA does not officially reveal any possible explanation for the Kecksburg incident.
NASA keeps its UFO secrets very close. When I've spoken to astronauts myself about UFOs, they've said pointedly that one of the things that they are not just instructed to do, but ordered to do, is never to disclose to the public UFO sightings they've had.
The official government explanation is that Kecksburg was the site of a meteor impact. But how could a meteor change direction as witnesses report? And what did the military take from the Kecksburg site? Coming up, the scramble to cover up the Kecksburg incident reaches the highest level of the U.S. government. (1965), a fireball crashes to Earth outside the small town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. Authorities insist the object is a meteor, but witnesses report possible evidence of a UFO. What really fell to Earth in Kecksburg? Some experts believe the answer lies in tracing the whereabouts of the most important man in America at the time. It is alleged that President Lyndon Johnson's vacation at his private Texas ranch is interrupted. A group of VIPs wait for him in his living room. The meeting is reportedly about budget issues concerning the Vietnam War, but the list of visitors that day indicates the emergency meeting may have been about something completely different. Along with the Joint Chiefs of Staff are the Director of NASA and the Governor of Pennsylvania. The topic of discussion that day remains unknown, but the President immediately returns to Washington, where he calls an urgent meeting with the Director of the Office of Emergency Planning at the Pentagon. Could the recent spike in UFO sightings indicate something bigger and more threatening to come? It's a disturbing thought. Since the Roswell incident in 1947, less than 20 years earlier, UFO sightings seem to be increasing in numbers that are staggering. Many government insiders believe that unless a tight lid is clamped down on the UFO phenomena, panic could quickly spread across the country.
I think it's rather obvious that the United States military and government would keep it a secret if there was a conflict or connection between them and extraterrestrials. I think the reason is simple: fear. If we were to let the public know that we, meaning America, the strongest military in the world, is no longer number one, how many people would fear that?
Was Kecksburg the site of a UFO crash? Did President Johnson fear alien contact? Back in Kecksburg, a local radio reporter is preparing an in-depth story on the incident, complete with eyewitness interviews. But shortly before airtime, the station is allegedly paid a visit by the Men in Black.
Men in Black are an unidentified group or an organization that would go around to alleged sightings of where there was some type of UFO report.
The Kecksburg story eventually goes to air, but the story is a heavily censored version of the original. Following the broadcast, the reporter refuses to discuss Kecksburg ever again. Sometime later, he is tragically killed in a hit-and-run while on vacation in California. The driver of the hit-and-run vehicle is never found. What really happened to the reporter? Could he have been the target of a government cover-up? But government attempts to maintain secrecy surrounding Kecksburg prove unsuccessful. Over the next few decades, witnesses will continue to break their silence at great personal risk to reveal the truth about what really happened that fateful night. Unsealed case file. The Kecksburg Witnesses. In December 1990, on the 25th anniversary of the Kecksburg incident, military personnel present the night of the crash come forward and confirm they were given orders to use deadly force. Other witnesses revealed that men wearing protective spacesuits bearing NASA logos were seen at the crash site, handling a bell-shaped object. Some also claim that overseeing the operation were men in black suits. Kecksburg resident Bill Bulabash was close enough that night to examine the crash site. The object he saw was 12 feet long and at least 7 feet in diameter, in the shape of an acorn. There were no visible doors, windows, or entry points of any kind. The metal was completely seamless. Perhaps the strangest feature is the writing covering the outside of the fallen object. Several witnesses, Bulabash among them, claimed the outside was covered with a hieroglyphic style of pictures and symbols. Are the markings on the Kecksburg object an alien language? If so, what could the symbols possibly mean? Witnesses say the cargo's final destination was Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the home of Project Blue Book, a government operation mandated to identify and monitor extraterrestrial activity. The Blue Book team is alleged to have studied the Kecksburg object, hoping to unravel its secrets. Coming up, experts claim the Kecksburg UFO is not the first bell-shaped craft to be associated with aliens. In 1965, a fiery object falls to Earth outside the small American town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. Authorities claim it is a meteor. Eyewitnesses, however, report a bell-shaped UFO was removed from the site. But this isn't the first bell-shaped flying object to appear in modern history. 2 decades earlier, a similar top-secret craft was reported being developed by the greatest evil the world has ever known. Unsealed case file. Die Glocke, the bell.
The piece of technology known as the Glocke, or the Nazi bell, was something that right up into the final days of the war, Hitler wanted to make it.
Die Glocke is alleged to be the brainchild of Hans Kammler, a high-ranking Nazi engineer who oversaw many of Hitler's special construction tasks. He's most infamous for building concentration camps and underground bunkers for secret weapons manufacturing. His most valuable resource? Slave labor. Not surprising that at the peak of his career, he was also involved in the deadly V-2 rocket program that would claim thousands of lives. But death camps and world domination were not the only interests he shared with Hitler. Some experts believe Kammler may have been working with materials of an extraterrestrial origin. Die Glocke was also rumored to be experimenting in time travel.
Imagine a time machine that could win a war before the war even started. That was the theory behind the Wonder Weapon, Die Glocke.
If this machine was even capable of what the reports said it could do, then I have a hard time believing that it was running on any known earthly substance at the time.
Were the Nazis really working on a time machine? And was its inventor working with recovered alien technology? In the end, Hitler is defeated, but the fate of his superweapon remains a mystery. Die Glocke allegedly disappeared from the German mountains in the spring of 1945. After the war, Nazi scientists are brought to the United States as part of Operation Paperclip to work on top-secret military and space projects. Among them is Hans Kammler, father of Die Glocke. The reported similarities between Die Glocke and the Kecksburg object are uncanny.
The designs for the Nazi bell show that it was about 15 feet in height, shaped like a bell, hence its name, cylindrical in shape.
Was the Kecksburg object a descendant of the Nazi time machine? Did Hans Kammler trade the plans for Die Glocke to the American government in return for his freedom? Many experts believe Nazi scientists were attempting to create technology that the human race had never seen before. The fate of the Kecksburg object remains unknown, along with the Nazi technology behind Die Glocke. But the timing of the incident in the 1960s presents another very plausible theory.
The Cold War was a huge barrier to the truth being brought forward. For obvious reasons. I mean, it was a pretty dangerous time. So between that and the technology, the truth embargo is still in place.
Russia and the United States are not only competing for supremacy on Earth, they are also racing to the moon. Is the Kecksburg object a Soviet spacecraft? December 9th, 1965. The Russian spacecraft Cosmos 96 is launched on an incredibly ambitious mission. It is designed to orbit and explore Venus. The Cosmos mission is aborted in low Earth atmosphere as the craft loses control and begins a free fall back to Earth. Russia would need to inform the American government to avoid this being seen as an attack that could lead to nuclear war. In that event, the secrecy surrounding the Kecksburg incident could be the result of American desire to recover Soviet space technology. The Russian Cyrillic alphabet could also explain the strange symbols most of the witnesses report on the object. It's a compelling case that would explain a great deal, except for one inconsistency. Cosmos 96 landed 13 hours earlier, north of the Canadian border. A fact that has been confirmed by U.S. Space Command and NASA's chief orbital debris scientist, Nicholas Johnson. Seeking answers for the incident at Kecksburg, ufologists turn to NASA. But all disclosure requests for information are met with resistance. In fact, NASA claims the files on the incident do not exist. Coming up, NASA is forced to tell the world what it knows in the latest chapter of the Kecksburg incident. The truth behind the Kecksburg incident has remained a mystery for almost 50 years. But in 2007, NASA is taken to court in an attempt to force the administration to release its files on the incident. But while under questioning, NASA spokesman David Stites reveals that all of its Kecksburg records are missing. In light of this new development, NASA considers the case closed. What really happened that fateful night in Kecksburg in 1965? One witness saw more than he should have and was told by a military officer to keep his mouth shut. He did for over 25 years. A laborer who made a delivery to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base saw a body lying on a workbench covered in a white sheet. It appeared to be 4 to 5 feet tall, 80 pounds. The witness describes a hand sticking out from under the sheet. And the skin was lizard-like. Is the Kecksburg cover-up disturbing evidence of an alien visitor to planet Earth? The public has a right to know.
This is Brad Fritzman from Joel Confer Toyota in State College.
Come see me at Joel Confer Toyota, 120 East Clinton Avenue, and let me show you our selection of Camrys and Corollas.
Joel Confer Toyota in State College. Toyota,